My brother stole my inheritance while I worked two jobs, so I took legal action and left him with nothing he thought he deserved. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and for the last 3 years, my life has revolved around one thing: survival. After my dad passed away, I picked up two jobs without even thinking twice. It felt like the obvious thing to do. My mom depended on me, and my little brother, Liam, was still finding himself, as everyone liked to put it. I remember telling myself, family comes first, no matter how heavy it gets. That sentence became my entire identity. Most days started before sunrise. I'd grab a cold energy drink from the fridge, listen to the quiet hum of the ceiling fan, and head out before anyone else woke up. When I came home late at night, my mom would smile warmly and say, "You're such a responsible son. I don't know what we'd do without you." And even though my bones felt like they were sinking into my skin, I'd smile back, because those words made everything feel worth it. Liam, on the other hand, acted like the house was a hotel. Whenever I hinted he should help out, he'd wave me off with, "Bro, relax. You work too much, that's your thing. Let me live a little." He'd laugh like it was a joke, as if my exhaustion was entertainment. Sometimes I'd sit in my car after work, gripping the steering wheel, wondering why responsibility always felt like a punishment rather than a virtue. A couple of family friends tried warning me. One even said, "You're carrying too much. They're getting comfortable with you suffering." I brushed it off, insisting, "They're my family. They wouldn't take advantage of me." I convinced myself loyalty was the same thing as love, even when the signs didn't add up. And despite the unease that occasionally tugged at my gut, I kept going, believing everything was stable. But looking back now, that was the calm before the storm I never saw coming. I always knew my dad had worked his whole life to leave something behind for us, but after he passed, no one really talked about the details. It was like the subject carried a weight my family didn't want to touch. One afternoon, while I was sorting through old files in the study, I found the first hint of what he left behind: a folder labeled estate planning in his neat handwriting. My chest tightened a little just seeing it. I remember thinking, maybe this is the one thing that will finally make life easier for all of us. When we met with the family lawyer shortly after, he explained things in a calm, professional tone. "Your father's property and savings will be distributed once you turn 30, he told me, sliding a thick document across his polished wooden desk. My mom nodded like she already knew every detail. Liam didn't even look up from his phone. He just muttered, "Cool, whatever," like the idea of a shared inheritance was boring. I tried asking, "So, everything gets split evenly, right?" My mom gave a tight smile. "Of course, sweetheart. That's what your father wanted." But something in her voice didn't match the softness of her words. It lingered, stiff, uneasy, like she was agreeing out of obligation and not truth. Liam stretched and yawned loudly as if the whole discussion was wasting his time. Meanwhile, I felt a strange chill creeping down my spine, the kind that tells you you're missing something obvious. Over the next few weeks, every time I tried to bring up the estate, my mom suddenly became busy, cooking, cleaning, pretending to be on a phone call. Liam avoided the topic altogether. When I walked past the living room one night, I heard them whispering in hushed tones, their voices shifting to silence the moment they noticed me. I told myself, it's nothing. They're just grieving. But deep inside, a quiet voice whispered that something was off, something I wouldn't understand until it was too late. It started with a letter, one of those stiff, official-looking envelopes that immediately tells you it's nothing good. I came home after a 14-hour shift, drenched in sweat and city dust, and found it wedged under the front door. At first, I thought it was just another bill, but when I tore it open, my stomach dropped. It was a tax delinquency notice for the family property, the same property tied to the inheritance that was supposedly untouched. I stood there in the hallway, the flickering bulb above me buzzing softly, while the words blurred in front of my eyes. I took the letter to my mom in the kitchen. She was slicing vegetables, her knife tapping rhythmically against the cutting board. "Mom, what is this?" I asked, placing the paper next to her. She barely glanced at it before pushing it aside. "Oh, honey, it's nothing. Probably a mix-up. I'll handle it." Her tone was dismissive, too dismissive, and her hand trembled just slightly before she hid it behind a dish towel. I pressed a little harder. "But why would taxes be overdue if everything is supposed to be frozen until I turn 30? She snapped back quicker than I expected. "Stop worrying so much. You stress yourself unnecessarily. Her reaction was sharp enough to make me take a step back. Later that evening, I approached Liam. He was sprawled on the couch, gaming headset on, neon lights reflecting off his face. "Hey, did you know anything about this property notice?" I asked. He paused his game, shot me an annoyed look, and said, "Bro, seriously? You're always digging into stuff. Just chill. Not everything is a crisis." I walked away feeling a hollow ache settle in my chest. I couldn't tell if I was being paranoid or if something truly wasn't right. And for the first time, the house didn't feel like home. It felt like a place full of secrets. Little did I know, this was only the first crack in a trust that was already breaking beneath me. A week later, another envelope arrived, this one heavier, with a wax seal and my full name typed across it. I opened it standing in the living room, the late afternoon light bleeding through the curtains in pale orange streaks. The moment I read the first line, my pulse slammed in my ears. It said the family house and adjoining land had been officially transferred into Liam's name months ago. My inheritance, my father's legacy, was already gone. I remember whispering out loud, "No, no, this has to be a mistake." My hands shook so badly the papers rattled. I rushed to the lawyer's office, the drive feeling like a blur of red lights and pounding heartbeat. When I arrived, I slammed the documents onto his desk. "Explain this," I demanded, my voice cracking in a way I couldn't control. The lawyer sighed, adjusted his glasses, and said, "Your mother signed off as your legal guardian." I stared at him. "Guardian? I'm 29. He nodded slowly. "She told the office you were unavailable and that she was authorized to make decisions on your behalf." My stomach twisted violently. My mom had pretended I was incapable of handling my own inheritance. And Liam, my carefree, lazy brother, had accepted everything without hesitation. Why would they do this? I whispered. The lawyer's voice was gentle. "I can't speculate, but the documents appear final." I drove home in silence, my grip locked so tightly on the steering wheel my knuckles turned white. When I confronted Liam, he didn't even look guilty. He smirked and said, "Relax, man. You weren't using it. I'll take care of it better than you would." The words hit like a punch to the chest. My mother didn't defend me. She didn't deny anything. She just said, "We did what we thought was best for the family." In that moment, the truth became undeniable. This wasn't an accident. It was betrayal, and I had no idea how deep it truly went. I wish I could say that discovering the property transfer was the worst of it, but that was only the surface. A few days later, I logged into our old joint family account, something I hadn't touched in months because my mom always insisted she handled the house finances. What I saw made my breath catch. My father's savings, every dollar he had put away for us, was gone. Not diminished, not reduced, gone. The number on the screen glared back at me like a slap. I confronted my mom first. She was sitting at the dining table, flipping through a magazine. "Mom," I said, trying to steady my voice, "where is Dad's savings?" She didn't even look up. "We needed it." "We," I repeated, my chest tightening. She exhaled dramatically and snapped. "Don't start acting selfish. You know Liam needed help getting on his feet." I felt heat rising up my neck. "Help? You emptied Dad's entire account for him." She finally looked at me, cold, annoyed, almost offended. "Your brother has potential. He deserves a chance. You already have stability. Why do you need money sitting in a bank?" It felt like a knife being twisted. All those nights, I worked myself into exhaustion while Liam partied and slept in. This was the truth behind it. I turned to Liam next. He was in his room, packing clothes into a suitcase like he was heading on vacation. "Did you take Dad's money?" I demanded. He glanced over his shoulder and shrugged. "Yeah, I needed it." "Chill. You're making a big deal out of nothing." "A big deal." My voice cracked. He rolled his eyes. "You act like you're the only one who deserves help. Dad loved me too." He said it like a taunt. That was when everything inside me finally snapped. The realization hit hard and ugly. This wasn't a moment of desperation or misunderstanding. This was planned, calculated, and justified in their minds long before I even knew the truth. And something told me the betrayal wasn't done unraveling yet. I didn't realize how close I was to collapsing until it actually happened. One night, after a double shift, I was walking through the back hallway at work when the floor suddenly tilted under me. My vision narrowed, my ears rang, and before I could grab onto anything, everything went black. I woke up in the hospital, the sharp smell of antiseptic filling my nose, and a cold four-line taped to my arm. A nurse told me I had passed out from exhaustion, dehydration, and stress. Hearing it out loud felt like someone naming a wound I'd been pretending didn't exist. I checked my phone, hoping, stupidly, that maybe my mom or Liam had messaged. Nothing. Not a missed call. Not a "Are you okay?" Instead, 2 unread texts from my mom. "Did you pay the electricity bill?" And another one from Liam. "Bro, when are you getting out? I need you to cover me for rent this month." Lying in that hospital bed, my chest tightened so painfully it felt like it was splitting open. Not from illness, from the sudden clarity of how little I mattered to them. When my coworker Eric came to visit, he sat beside the bed and shook his head. "Man, they're using you. You know that, right?" I stared at the ceiling, the fluorescent lights blurring. "They're my family," I muttered. It sounded weak, even to me. "Family doesn't drain you dry," he said quietly. "Family doesn't watch you collapse and ask when you're paying their bills again." His words hit harder than I expected. A lump formed in my throat, and for the first time, I didn't defend them. I didn't make excuses. I didn't pretend everything was fine. For years, I convinced myself that loyalty meant endurance, that sacrifice was love. But lying there, sore, exhausted, alone, I finally felt the truth settle like a stone in my stomach. I had reached rock bottom, and something deep inside me whispered that once I stood up again, I wouldn't be the same person anymore. When I got discharged from the hospital, the air outside felt different, sharper, colder, like the world was done letting me ignore what was right in front of me. I drove straight past my house and ended up in a parking lot for almost an hour, staring at my steering wheel while my heartbeat pulsed in my ears. Finally, with hands still trembling, I Googled inheritance lawyer fraud family. That alone made my stomach twist. I never imagined I'd need to protect myself from the people I loved. But something inside me, the part that had finally cracked open in that hospital room, pushed me forward. The lawyer's office was quiet, lined with dark wood shelves and the faint smell of old paper. I sat across from him, my palms sweaty, and said, "I think my family stole my inheritance." He didn't flinch. He just leaned forward and said, "Tell me everything." So I did. Every detail, every document, every lie. When I finished, he slowly exhaled and tapped the papers spread across his desk. "These signatures, they don't match yours," he said. "And your mother claiming legal guardianship? Completely invalid. None of this was done legally." My throat went dry. "So what does that mean?" "It means," he said, folding his hands, "you may be able to reverse everything. The property transfer, the withdrawn funds, all of it. But you'll need evidence. Solid, undeniable evidence." Hearing those words was like oxygen filling my lungs for the first time in months. He began listing what I needed: emails, bank statements, messages, recordings, and I felt something unfamiliar rising in my chest. Not anger, not sadness. Resolve. "I can get what you need," I said quietly. He nodded. "Good. But don't let them know you're doing this. People who manipulate money often panic when they're exposed." When I left his office, the sun was setting, painting the sky in bruised purples and oranges. It felt fitting, like the end of something, and the beginning of something else entirely. For the first time, I wasn't walking back into my life blindly. I was walking into a battle I never thought I'd have to fight. Gathering evidence felt like sneaking through my own life. Every old email, every bank notification, every document I found tucked away in drawers, it all painted a picture I had been too loyal, too blind to see. By the time I walked back into the house, my phone was full of screenshots, recordings, and dates. But keeping quiet was harder than I thought. My chest felt tight every time I looked at them, knowing the people under this roof had done all of it knowingly, deliberately, and they were still pretending everything was normal. That night, I finally broke. Liam was sprawled on the couch with chips in one hand and his phone in the other. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't even pause his game. "Dude, unless you're paying my credit card bill, I'm busy." I stepped closer. "You stole Dad's savings. You forged papers. You took the house." Liam snorted, rolling his eyes. "Oh my God, are you still crying about that? Grow up. Mom said it was for the best." The casual cruelty in his tone made something inside me ignite. "Do you deny doing it?" I asked. He shrugged. "Why would I? You're too soft to manage any of it anyway." Right then, my mom walked in, tightening her robe. What's this yelling? I turned to her. Mom, you signed as my guardian. You lied. You handed everything to Liam. Her face hardened instantly. Don't you dare accuse me of wrongdoing. You're ungrateful. Everything we did was for the family. The family, I repeated, my voice shaking. Or just Liam? Her jaw clenched. He deserves it more. He'll carry the family name. You're just responsible. You'll be fine. It was like a punch in the gut. So I hit record on my phone, silently, and let them keep talking. Liam scoffed. Yeah, and what are you gonna do? Cry? You won't do anything. But I stayed silent. Because what they didn't know was that this entire conversation, every admission, every insult, was now evidence. And for the first time, I saw fear flicker in their eyes, not yet fully formed, but there. A storm was coming, and they had no idea how close it really was. The next morning, I walked into the lawyer's office with my phone, my folder of documents, and a feeling in my chest that was equal parts terror and clarity. He reviewed everything quietly, pausing only to replay parts of the recorded conversation where my mother explicitly admitted signing for me, and Liam openly claimed the property. When he set the phone down, he said, "This is more than enough." We moved forward immediately. Hearing those words sent a chill down my spine. It was real now. There was no undoing this step. Within 48 hours, official fraud and unlawful transfer filings were submitted. My lawyer explained everything as calmly as if he were reciting a weather forecast. Your brother and mother will be served legal notices, he said. Do not contact them first. Let the law speak. A part of me still felt sick, because despite everything, they were still my family. But another part, the part that had been beaten down for years, finally felt like it could breathe. The notices were delivered in the early afternoon. I wasn't home when it happened, but I arrived just in time to hear Liam yelling from inside the house. What the hell is this? He screamed, waving the papers in the air. My mom's voice trembled. He wouldn't do this. He wouldn't betray us like this. I stepped through the door. I didn't betray anyone, I said quietly. You did. Liam stormed toward me, shoving the papers against my chest. You think you can ruin my life? You think a stupid lawsuit scares me? You forged signatures, I said. You emptied Dad's account. You stole what wasn't yours. His face twisted, panic flickering beneath the rage. We can talk about this, just drop it. But I wasn't bargaining anymore. The court date is set. It's out of my hands now. Word spread fast. Relatives, neighbors, even family friends I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly reached out. People whispered, judged, chose sides. And for once, most weren't choosing Liam's. I could feel everything shifting. And for the first time, it wasn't me falling apart, it was them. Walking into the courthouse felt like stepping into a place where every lie, every manipulation, every sleepless night I'd endured had finally gathered in one room. The air was cold, almost metallic, and the faint echo of footsteps down the long hallway made my nerves tighten. My lawyer walked beside me, calm and composed, while my heart pounded so loudly it drowned out everything else. When we entered the courtroom, Liam was already there, arms crossed, jaw clenched, eyes burning with a mixture of arrogance and fear. My mother sat beside him, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, but her expression was still sharp enough to cut. When the case was called, my lawyer began laying out the evidence piece by piece. The forged documents, the bank withdrawals, the recorded conversation where they openly admitted everything. The judge listened intently, her gaze shifting between the screen, the papers, and my family. Liam leaned toward his attorney, whispering furiously, but his shaking hands betrayed him. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up slowly. I worked 2 jobs, I said, my voice trembling at first. I paid every bill. I trusted them. And while I was killing myself to keep this family afloat, they took everything my father left for me. My mother suddenly stood. He's exaggerating. We did what was best. The judge cut her off sharply. Sit down. Then came Liam's turn. He tried blaming my mother. My mother tried blaming me. Their stories contradicted each other so badly the courtroom felt like it was vibrating with tension. Finally, the judge leaned forward, her voice steady and final. Based on the evidence, the property transfer is nullified. All funds must be returned. Penalties will be issued for fraud and unauthorized signatures. Liam's face crumpled. My mother gasped, covering her mouth. It was the first time I'd ever seen them truly afraid. As we walked out, my legs felt weak, Not from fear this time, but from something that felt like justice settling slowly into my bones. The fight wasn't over, but the tides had finally turned. In the days after the judgment, the house felt eerily quiet, not peaceful, but hollow, like the aftermath of a storm that had torn everything open. Liam avoided me entirely, slipping in and out at odd hours, his once cocky stride replaced by hurried steps and hunched shoulders. I heard him on the phone one night, his voice cracking as he said, "No, I don't have the money. The court took everything back." I said I'll figure it out. Hearing panic in his voice, real panic, felt surreal. This was the same brother who once mocked me for being too soft. Now he was choking on consequences he once believed didn't apply to him. The financial fallout hit him fast. His car, the one he bragged about nonstop, was repossessed within a week. His landlord left a notice on his door demanding unpaid rent. I overheard him telling my mother, "They're going to evict me. I need money." She whispered sharply, "Ask your brother. He has a good job. He's always been stable." I stepped into the room before Liam could look my way. "No," I said, my voice steady. "I'm done supporting you. Both of you." My mother's eyes flared. "After everything we've done for you? Everything I did for this family was repaid with betrayal," I said. "That debt is settled." Relatives started calling me too, but their tone was different, curious, cautious, even apologetic. Some admitted they suspected something was off for years. Others said they were proud of me for finally standing up for myself. For once, no one was asking me to fix anyone else's mess. Liam tried reaching out one night, knocking weakly at my door. "Can we talk?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. I opened the door just enough to look him in the eye. "There's nothing left to talk about," I said. "Not until you learn what responsibility actually means." His shoulders slumped. He walked away without another word. And as I watched him go, I realized something. For the first time, I wasn't the one carrying the weight. He was. But the story wasn't finished, not yet. After everything settled, the house felt different. Lighter, almost like the walls themselves were relieved the truth had finally been dragged into the open. My name was officially restored to the property, the savings account reopened in my rightful ownership, and the legal cloud that had hovered over me for months finally lifted. I walked through the rooms my father built, running my fingers along the banister he polished every spring, breathing in the familiar scent of old wood and sunlight. And for the first time in years, I wasn't weighed down by obligation. I felt free, not victorious, just free. My mother tried calling a few times, leaving voicemails filled with guilt trips and half-hearted apologies wrapped in accusations. "You destroyed this family," she said in one. "Liam is struggling, and it's because you couldn't be generous." I deleted every message. I didn't trust that voice anymore, the one I once mistook for guidance. I knew now it was manipulation dressed as love. Liam spiraled quietly. He moved into a cheap apartment across town, took a job he hated, and kept his distance. One day I saw him outside a grocery store, fumbling with change, looking nothing like the golden child he'd been treated as his whole life. Our eyes met for a second. He opened his mouth to speak, but I just nodded politely and walked past. I wasn't cruel. I was done. With the legal battles behind me, I finally let myself breathe. I reduced my hours at work, focused on rebuilding my savings, and even started therapy, something I should have done years ago. My therapist said something that stuck with me. "You didn't break your family. You simply stopped allowing yourself to be broken for them." Some nights, I sit on the back porch with a cup of tea, listening to the wind move through the trees. It's quiet, peaceful, and for once, the silence doesn't feel like loneliness. It feels like healing. My father's home is mine again. My life is mine again. And the boy who sacrificed everything finally learned how to protect himself. The storm is over. But the strength it gave me, that stays.